Life is so simple, eh? It's very easy to recognize that it's so simple when you're out in beautiful nature. But really, even if you're sitting in an office right now and behind a boring desk, you could see the same simplicity. It's so simple that it's hard to talk about it. You know, just look at it, man. Just look at these trees. They're just being, right? These rocks here, they're just chilling. The water is just flowing. Everything just is. That's the beauty of nature, isn't it? Everything is just what it is. There's no gap between what nature mostly desires, most deeply desires, and what it does. There's no gap there, you see? There's no difference between what it does and what it wants. That's what makes it so perfect, right? And there is nothing outside of nature to influence it, right? How could there be? It would be just more nature. Nothing is missing in nature. Nothing is being missed. Nothing is lacking. Nothing can possibly be added to nature to make it more complete, to make it more of what it already is. It's impossible. Isn't that fantastic? And yet, although we are born from nature, we can't really say the same about the human condition, can we now? Oh, no, no, no. That's a different story. That's a different picture. The contrast can't be bigger, comparing nature to, say, mainstream society. The contrast couldn't have been bigger. Most people live the day-to-day moment as though something is missing all the time. Something is incomplete. I have to do X to get Y because of Z. I am incomplete, so I need to work, or I need to consume, or I need to become, or I need to find this person, or this experience, or that experience. I need. Never-ending needs and wants and desires, and never-ending aversion and not wanting and hiding. Why? Because we have this psychological capability to create virtual gaps between what nature wants and what it does, right? That's our gift. Sorry that I'm laughing, but it is kind of funny from one point of view. It's absurd, it's absolutely absurd. It's insane. It's the definition of insanity. To want something that is not here present, To think that that if you'd add something to your experience or remove something from your experience, that would make your experience more real or more true or complete or beautiful. Wow. That's the true magic, Nature is perfect, but people and ego, that shit's magic. That shit's entertaining, Imagine we would be without it. It would be very boring. Of course, in the beginning, the, the perfection in nature would be amazing. Maybe for a day or a year, and then you would be like, okay, everything is perfect all the time, so it gets boring. So maybe, you know, in order for the universe to keep itself entertained, it introduced ego and people to have a drama that is entertaining, right? Because nature knows little drama. But why? You know, why do we do this? Why do we torment ourselves continuously? You know, never ending, never ending. I've been on that fucking treadmill for a couple decades. You know, chase work, chase money, chase woman, chase parties, chase hedonism, chase career, chase validation, chase success, chase images, chase whatever, man. That it didn't matter. As long as I was chasing, I felt like I'm moving somewhere. Until in my early 20s, I realized this shit is not working. Something just does not add up here. Right? I need to figure out what it is, because this game is not working. Even though I had, you know, success according to society, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel complete. I didn't feel happy. Anyway, why do we do that? You know, where does that come from? You know, from one point of view, from the non-dual point of view, even the insanity of humanity is a perfect expression of nature, of course. But until that view is available, I think it's a good idea to examine how we view the world, how we operate, how we see ourselves, why we do what we do. To see, you know, like what is actually true here. Why do you do what you do? Why do you desire that job or that partner? Where does that come from? Is that really your own natural inclination? Is it coming from a place of inspiration? Or does it come from a program that has been handed to you, that you have adopted from society or from parents? Because most of it is in this society, you know, it's just programming that's being passed on from generation to generation. While not many people stop and think about, why the fuck am I actually doing this? Why do I believe this, you know? What makes something good? What makes something bad? Does good and bad even exist? It doesn't in nature, does it? Have you ever seen good and bad in nature? Like a baby deer is born. Some people would say, oh, how good. Do you think nature thinks that that's good? When that same baby deer gets eaten up by a lion, a lot of people would say, oh, how sad. That's so bad. Too bad. But nature doesn't. It allows it all. It allows stars to be born and to die as we speak. And as I speak, a storm is forming here. But yeah, the question of why, it seems to all come down to ego, right? To identification. Identification with that we as people are somehow just ourselves. I'm just me, and I am like a fixed little entity that is apart from nature. And because I am me, and I am not life, I get to decide what I want and what I don't want. And because this little me, at the core of its identity, has some negative self-image along the lines of I'm not good enough, I'm unlovable, I'm weak, I'm small, I'm dependent, etc., it projects this whole mechanism of I'm not good enough outward and splits experience in the world into good and bad, into desirable and undesirable. And it sees the external world as a source of validation and love and feeling good about itself. Because deep down, virtually everybody has had some version of the programming, I am unworthy, I am unlovable. Mostly due to rejection in otherwise good willing parents, but almost nobody is spared from this mechanism. No one I know, at least. And so when we are identified as this me, as this separate self that is apart from nature and feels as though it's incomplete, we then enter into a society that has been built by people that have the same exact mechanism internalized. And so the systems that have been built, they completely play into individuals that feel incomplete, right? Most of our economy is about production and consumption of goods that often have no purpose, you know. Do you really need the next iPhone, right? Or the next Android and this whole, we're born into a system that needs consumers, right? It doesn't need people that stand on their own 2 feet and think for themselves and live from sovereignty, because that means you don't need most of the shit that's going on in society. And so when we are born into this society, while we forget that our essence is unbounded, unborn, knows no lack, we forget that, right? We disconnect from our true nature when we embody and identify with the little baby body. And then we get the whole rejection cycle starts with our parents and family and friends and high school and then further and career and you know, it's a near never-ending cycle, because the cycle can end, and it does end. For people that go, wait a minute, this does not make any fucking sense. There has to be a different way of living, right? I remember that moment happening for me when I was in my early 20s, like I said before. And to this day, I don't really know why that moment even happened, you know, like where that came from. I have no idea. But there was just this intuitive click, you know. I had all of these successful stuff lined up, and yet I still had ups and downs, and I felt unstable and not happy. And it was this click of like, hell fucking no, I'm not gonna live like this. I know that I don't have to live like this. I know that some sort of stable peace or happiness is possible, and that I can, that it's my birthright. Somehow something new, or recognized. It's a mystery how. And I see this in many people on this path, that they don't really know. They didn't choose to step onto the path, right? Which is a mystery in and of itself. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, just from the current point of view, it's just, I can only laugh at this whole thing, because in the end, you arrive at a point where you see that it all everything has been nature, everything has been complete, and that the whole sense of a separate self was a virtual entity in a virtual reality, and that and that even the path going from a separate self to no self also happened in a virtual reality, albeit a virtual reality that was progressively more aligned with how things really are. But the whole spiritual path, the waking up from insanity, was also a story. It was false, it was a belief. It was the belief of, I am on the spiritual path and I am going to get enlightened, and I am going to be so special, and I'm going to save people and shit. Oh my god. Yeah, no. Yeah, I think this is it for now, man. I don't know what else to say.